Welcome to MalcolmPresents.com and our show, Courtney on Health. Welcome, Courtney. Welcome, Maxine.
Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
And Maxine, do our normal opening, introduce our...
Well, you already
expert
welcomed
on health.
us, so I'm going to double welcome us. So again,
Double welcome.
hello to Courtney and hello to Malcolm. Howdy, howdy. Welcome to
Hello.
Courtney on Health, a Zoomcast podcast series which focuses on one's overall well-being with tips on nutrition and exercise given by Courtney Graveniers, registered dietitian with a Master of Science degree in nutrition and applied physiology. Courtney is an experienced nutritional and health consultant in the New York metro area and into the stars, because she's a star, baby, and will help guide you on a path to wellness and health. So kind of bringing us into this topic today. If you ever wondered what grows in the shade of night, I can direct you to the potato. It is a member of a group of vegetables called the nightshades, which, by the way, is a great name for a rock band. Some other members of this veggie band are tomatoes and chili peppers. Wait, there is a rock group called the Chili Peppers, and they are red hot. Ha, ha, ha. I knew I couldn't resist. I'm not sure how the name nightshade got attached to these vegetables, but some suggest that the name describes how these plants prefer to grow and flower in the night and shade. Nightshades contain different types of alkaloid compounds that are used that cause physiological changes in the body, and they are a topic of debate among health providers and dietitians, as it has been said that these veggies cause increased inflammation. But on the other side of the debate, there is evidence which indicates that these plant foods have anti-inflammatory properties. So are we made in the shade? And what can we do? Courtney, we need you to help us make sense of the pros and cons of nightshades. So can you give us a little bit of background on this?
Yeah, but before we get serious, it sounds almost evil. Things that grow in the night.
Well, they're not all growing so if you think about it, first of all, I don't know if anybody knows for sure, like the history of the name, although it might be stemmed in that some of them do grow in darkness and prefer lack of light, but it might also be due to the fact that many of not necessarily the vegetables we're talking about today, but many of the 2,000 plus plant varieties of the whole nightshade family are poisonous, hallucinogenic. So there's a dark side to them. So I don't know if anybody really knows for sure, but those might be some of the reasons behind its shady name. So they are part of a really big group. It's called the Solanaceae family, big word. And like I said, it's not just the vegetables we're going to talk about today. And actually, to be fair, we're referring to some of these as vegetables, but botanically they're fruits. So not just the vegetables we're talking about today, but the very, very large category of plant varieties that they include. Some of you may have heard of belladonna, which is the one that's considered deadly nightshade. Obvious reason, it's poisonous and can kill you. So,
and it's Fleetwood Mac song.
It was her album. It's Stevie Nicks.
I hate to bring rock up, but it seems to be coming up a lot in this category.
Well,
today.
You know what, Maxine? You do know music, so I know for all of that.
I know a bit. Sorry.
So the history is interesting. Don't really know if we know why the name came from, but what is at least popular in terms of what you see online, for a long time, some people have avoided the nightshade family. Let's just say the edible nightshade family that's not poisonous. Specifically those individuals who have associated with it being pro-inflammation and problematic for people with autoimmune diseases. So for example, rheumatoid arthritis, not osteoarthritis, that's different, celiac disease, multiple sclerosis. So the whole variety of diseases that are associated with autoimmune function. So the foods, what are they? So let's start with the potato, because I did not have white potatoes available. I had a whole bunch of purple and blue potatoes in the house. So these are, although the potato, specifically the white potato, is one of the vegetables. These colorful beauties, these purple ones here, and sweet potatoes are excluded from that nightshade family category. So if you're trying to eliminate the nightshade family, these varieties of potatoes are considered okay. So think about your white potato, and we're going to talk about the potato specifically in a little bit. Eggplant. And I feel like the eggplant is one of these vegetables that even if it weren't for the fact that it's a nightshade, people avoid it anyway because it's a little intimidating, right? It's weird. It's just, what do I do with it? Do I need to salt it? Do I need to pat, like what? So even without the nightshade association, I think people are weirded out by the eggplant. Not me, I love it, but
yeah,
so
I could say something about emojis now, but I won't.
Don't go there.
I'm not.
Tomatoes. Now it's fresh tomatoes like I have here, but it's also anything derived from a tomato. So think about ketchup, think about tomato sauces, pasta sauces, diced tomatoes like I have here. So it's not just the fresh tomato, it's what is made from the tomato. Tomatillo, which I'm seeing all over markets now. So these are also in that nightshade family. Peppers, so not just the chili pepper, but a sweet pepper as well, but anything derived from the pepper. So think about things like cayenne pepper, chili pepper, paprika. Any herb or spice that's derived from any of these is going to fall into that nightshade category. And if you are, somebody who's interested in eliminating those, you need to include those as well. Tobacco products are in the nightshade family. Most of us don't eat tobacco products, but it is in that wide, big cacategory.
Hey, it's baseball playoff time and they chew tobacco, so maybe that's
They
not
most certainly do.
a good idea. And yeah, I mean those things also, like the hot sauces, right?
Yeah.
That my diet I wouldn't be eating much because I love all that stuff.
Well,
So
that's part of the problem, is that if you follow the show here and you follow me, I've talked about all of these as being foods that you should be including in your diet for a variety of reasons, either because of their vitamin and mineral content, their polyphenol content, so carotenoid, them being anti-inflammatory. Think about the peppers that we've spoken about on this show. So the more heat, the more anti-inflammatory compounds in there. So I know it does seem to fly in the face of things that you might be hearing, and therein lies some of the confusion.
mm-hmm.
So let's just talk a little bit about some of the studies, which, by the way, have been done mostly in mice, which is not unusual. A lot of our studies in nutrition and pharmaceuticals are started in mice. And then they're also done, in vitro, so, Petri dish, so not in actual human beings or human things. So you mentioned this, Maxine, they contain something called these alkaloids, which are really just a fancy word for compounds that contain nitrogen, organic compounds that contain nitrogen. So it's a big category of foods and compounds that would include these alkaloids. So it's not all of them, but in particularly something called solanine. And we're going to talk about that. That compound in particular, in large amounts, is toxic. So how toxic? That's where the details are a little bit fuzzy. So for some individuals who have an autoimmune disease, and let's talk about irritable, inflammatory disease, inflammatory bowel disease. These compounds, particularly the solanine, may cause something called a leaky gut. You guys may have heard about this. It's basically when foods are digested and they get into your intestines, the fluid, which is not supposed to leak out of that area, leaks outside. And because it's an autoimmune disease, remember the history of this, your body sees whatever this is and attacks it because it doesn't know that it's friendly or harmless, is going to deem it harmful. And some of these side effects that we're seeing or may see are associated with that. So that's part of the problem with when these alkaloids reach the intestine, reach the gut.
Can you give us a couple of those side effects, what they might be?
Well, it's different for everybody, but particularly for, let's just say for irritable inflammatory bowel disease, it could be constipation, it could be diarrhea, it could be distension, bloating, it could be gassiness, it could be a variety of those or just one of them. For people with rheumatoid arthritis, it could be a flare-up. You might hear that word a lot when we hear about rheumatoid arthritis, a flare-up in pain, so an inflammation of the joints. So it really depends on the specifically the autoimmune disease that we're talking about. But as it relates to the gut, some of those more typical symptoms would be just like I mentioned. So none of them pleasant.
Yeah, I'm wondering if we could develop a smart body, like you say, the body doesn't recognize certain things or it's prevents it. Like we have a smart TV, smartphone.
Yeah.
Isn't someone working on a smart body?
I'm pretty sure that, well, we're going to talk about nutrition and artificial intelligence in a couple of weeks. So, it'll certainly on the horizon. And I think for many people who suffer from many of these autoimmune diseases, they would welcome any options for them.
Yeah, I raise my hand. I do.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's problematic. So here's the thing, though. You got to go to where the research is. And as I mentioned, most of the studies that show any association between the fruits and vegetables in the nightshade family being pro-inflammatory and aggravating the symptoms of autoimmune diseases have been done in mice, not many done in human beings. So we really don't have enough good data to say absolutely avoid nightshades if you have an autoimmune disease. However, and you guys, we talk about this a lot on here, although we need to have a framework associated with the research, right? We can't just be spewing out information that's got, no validity to it. If this is something that you would like to try, so if you suffer from, let's just say, rheumatoid arthritis, and you would like to try, the best way to do this would be to eliminate the entire category of foods that we just spoke about, all of them at once, including those spices and condiments like ketchup and hot sauce, just like we just mentioned, and leave them out of your diet for about 4 weeks. At that point, you're going to want to introduce each one at a time, and very, very carefully, you're going to monitor how you feel. So there's periods of time that you want to monitor your symptoms. So initially, when you start to pull everything out, week by week, you're going to monitor how you feel, your symptoms. Are you feeling like you're having a flare-up? And then once again, when you reintroduce these foods back into the diet, to see if you personally feel any different. So even if the research doesn't support the fact that nightshades are pro-inflammatory, you may still feel better by eliminating them, and that's okay. But you need to basically do your own personal, assessment in your home. And like I said, the best way, eliminate for 4 weeks, make sure you're monitoring how you're feeling, and then very slowly reintroduce one at a time, and don't make any other changes in your diet while you're doing this reintroduction, and monitor closely.
Are medical professionals on top of this? If you're having these issues and you're going to like a gastroenterologist or something, or is it basically the dietitians and those in your field that keep an eye on this, and if there's an issue, I guess, refer to a physician?
Well, I think the answer is both. I think that certainly if somebody goes in to see, a specialist about any of these autoimmune diseases, they might say, again, keep in mind, they're going to go with where the data is. And you might get a brush off, and they may say, the data doesn't support it, don't even bother. Or you might get somebody who's a little bit more supportive and say, give it a shot. That's where a dietitian comes into play, because the monitoring of the symptoms, asking the right questions, which foods, herbs, spices, condiments do you really need to completely pull out, carefully monitoring the reintroduction period. That's where I think the physician and the dietitian and the patient form the best triad, the best team, in order to help manage some of these symptoms. But I can see where a physician might say, data's not there, I can't, I can't get behind it. I can appreciate that, but I feel like we need to give, sometimes things work, so we need to give some of these therapies a try. Now, keep in mind, a lot of these are, like we said, are very, very healthful foods. So if it's not working, then bring it back in, because like we said, it's a big reason why we want them.
I find in my many years of going to the doctor, there are very few doctors that really know about foods in the system. They'll tell you about one or two things to take, but if you have a symptom of something, they won't treat the cause of it. What they'll do is they'll treat the symptom. Okay, you take this and it'll be better. You get a headache and take aspirin. They don't say why you got the headache, but you take the medicine. And I don't know if you watch the commercials on on television, but especially in the newscast, like the 6 and 7 o'clock news, which I guess are gathered or aiming for older audience. They'll have 15 seconds of how to treat the symptoms, and 45 seconds saying what the medicine can do for you. It would cause death. It would cause the amputation of your leg. It will. You listen to
all this good stuff, Malcolm. Yeah,
I don't know why anyone would take medicine. I try to avoid it.
Well, I know. I think there's a balance, Malcolm. I really do. I think that there's a balance between, obviously, if somebody is suffering and they're in pain, and you want to certainly manage with, particularly if there's a medication that's working, and you always want to weigh out the pros and the cons, benefits worth risks. But to be fair, the way healthcare system's set up right now, even if a physician does have the information, they have a very small window. So there's only so much time they're with a patient, and it's just the way it is. Things like nutrition and lifestyle counseling might not fit into that 15-minute window that they have. So I don't think it's that they don't care. I think it many times comes down to there's just not enough time to cover all of those things, and you can't just do it quickly, right? You guys know this. Talking about lifestyle changes is not a 3-second conversation. It's not. So what? Go ahead, Maxine.
Yeah, just quickly, what can you swap in if you need to eliminate certain items? What can you swap in that is nutrition, highly nutritional and will not make you feel the same way?
Yeah. Well, there are, now keep going. This is pretty much the list. Now, although these are very, super foods that we're talking about here, eliminating, there is a wide variety of other fruits and vegetables that you could be including. So I've seen 1-for-1 swaps of things like, bring in, if you have to eliminate these, bring in cauliflower instead, bring in mushrooms instead, which, by the way, mushrooms are, they love the dark. They love that loamy kind of environment too.
That's why I love mushrooms.
They are not nightshades.
Halloween food.
Halloween
mushrooms.
Food. So
mushrooms.
There are a lot of foods, particularly obviously fruits and vegetables, that you can keep in the diet that are not nightshades. But for somebody who really likes foods that are tomato based, I've heard the swap. Well, okay, then do something. You can do pesto, and you can do all these types of different, sauces that are made with herbs, which of course is the truth. But the reality is, if you're really looking for like a sauce or something made with tomatoes, you'd have to, really think a little bit creatively. And there's really no substitute specifically for a tomato. You can just do something that is just different rather than replacing it.
Right. I would be very upset if I had to lose my tomato connection. I love cooking with it, and I love it. So I'm hoping I'm okay and we don't have to deal with getting rid of it.
No, and then monitor you. It really does put on the when I'm working with clients for any type of elimination diet, whether it be FODMAP or whether it's trying to eliminate some nightshades. You really do need to take some very careful notes and be very, very honest with yourself. I mean, even if here's the thing, right? Even if it's placebo effect, and it's like, I've taken these out, I feel so much better. Well, if it's placebo and you feel good and it's not costing you any money, so there's a whole side to placebo effect treatment, right? So, but it's important to take really good notes about how you're feeling and be very, very honest with yourself. But I do want to talk about potatoes for a second specifically. And as we mentioned, so your blue potatoes, red skin potatoes, these are purple potatoes that I have here, don't have that same problem with being high solanine content. When you have white potatoes, let's talk about storage for a second. Think about, and this might have happened, in either of your homes or anybody who's listening or watching, there's that green sort of discoloring that occurs on white skin potatoes, typically just under the skin, or sometimes you can actually see it coming through the skin.
Mhm.
That is really what we're talking about. That is your marker that there is a greater than usual amount of solanine in that white potato. How does this happen? It's usually improper either growing conditions or storage conditions. Like you said, Maxine, potatoes like dark, right? That's
Right.
where they want to grow. If they're grown too close to the surface, or they're grown up on a hill where there's more light versus dark, this can affect that solanine content. Most of us don't grow our own potatoes, but when you do buy potatoes, certainly, look in the bag if you're buying a full bag and see if you see a lot of them with green, put that bag back. If you're individually buying them, same thing. Sometimes you bring them home and you may notice it if they've been sitting around for a little bit. So you don't want to leave them in the light. Storage for potatoes remains the same, sort of a cellar type environment. So cooler, dark, keep them there. If you start to see that green, and it's only a small amount, let's just say right under the surface of the skin. Sadly, that means you got to peel off the skin, which you guys know I'm a big fan of the skin of all the potatoes. But remove that and you can still consume the potato and it would be totally fine. If it's throughout the potato, that's a time where you need to discard either the whole bag or the potato that you're looking at.
Now, I haven't seen green, but what I see in potatoes, especially if you store them in a dark place, in the cabinet, they grow eyes. What do the eyes mean? That means good or bad, or you can just cut out the eyes.
You can cut out the eyes unless there's green that's underneath there. The eyes are fine. I wouldn't, we talk about food waste here as well. I wouldn't chuck out potatoes. You can cut that out. Now, if it's, if you've got more eyes on the potato than you do in a boardroom of executives, then it's probably past its prime and you should probably get rid of it. But
it looks so creepy.
They do look creepy.
Again, Halloween, it's coming soon. Keep those potatoes in the dark and see what happens, and then give them out as trick or treats.
Right.
Not treats, tricks. Sorry.
So that's it's storage type.
Aren't you, Maxine?
What was that?
You are mean.
Mean.
I think she's just ready for Halloween.
I got to figure out, what my strategy is this year for Halloween.
I never get Halloween kids at the door.
Oh, we do. Our area is chock full of kids. If it's a nice night, they even venture down my driveway, which scares the heck out of them. But I still get a lot of kids. They go, "Who's down there?" Because I cut my pumpkin. I got my jack-o'-lantern going. So, it's coming.
It's coming soon.
So if you're talking about this, keep the potatoes in, and there are a wide variety. Sweet potatoes are fine. They don't have the solanine. Again, it's really specifically the white potato, and this is not an indictment, by the way, of white potatoes at all, because I feel like they get a bad rap all the time. But particularly with regard to the nightshade family, it's the white potato. And if you are going to try this, and again, this is only for individuals with an autoimmune disease that I'm recommending, that I would say definitely give this a shot. We really have zero data to suggest that this is, if you remove these, you are creating a very a better environment in your body with regards to inflammation than if you eat them. For the same reason we were just talking about, we know about capsaicin, we know about that heat, we know about tomatoes and lycopenes being very anti-inflammatory. So this subset that I'm talking about that might want to consider trying it is really those individuals who might be suffering from an autoimmune disease.
Yeah, I have a question for you, as usual. Do doctors consult you? I mean, as you say, I recognize the doctors may not have the knowledge that you have on nutrition because that's not their, specialty. But does a doctor ever call you up and say, I'd like you to work with my patient who has this symptoms and nutritionally work with them?
Sure, I'll get it's a referral process, just like you might get a referral to, like if you go to see an internist and you referred out to a GI specialist or a cardiologist. So sure, and many times it wouldn't, I have to say it's been, I can't think of a time I've been referred to for somebody with an autoimmune disease, but oftentimes it's somebody with diabetes or cardiovascular disease, where they're really trying very hard initially to do a lifestyle change first before they start them with medication. So I'll see a lot of pre-diabetics. So absolutely, yeah, there'll be a referral system, and keep in mind that certain practices have a registered dietitian right in their practice. So that makes it a nice relationship. It's sort of one stop. So he or she, the dietitian, will be in the office right there, and that makes it much more convenient for a patient.
It's really important. And the fact, I think some medical schools are taking to education of future doctors in terms of diet and dietary situations that they need to know about, and so that when they do consult with you, they sound like they know what they're talking about, because I think a lot more of what the subject matter, obviously. So yeah, it's something that is catching up, I think.
No, I think you're right, Maxine, and I will say, and over the years I've been doing this, there really is very much a multidisciplinary team approach now. I think that level of respect of let me pass this off, because you're gonna, a dietitian is going to be able to offer you much more, detailed specifics than I would. So much more now than I would say, a decade ago. So it's nice that there should be that kind of collaborative type of relationship, and it exists.
Good. Well, you're the one. I still got to get in with you. How long have I been saying I need to have a
Maxine? I'm just saying, I do walk and talk consults. All right, I'm out there. I'm happy.
Okay, next time take a walk. We'll talk. I don't know.
We'll go to a private space. I don't have to worry about HIPAA, violating any HIPAA regs.
Right, go into my woods. That we could see the various animals out there doing their thing. The chipmunks now are in high gear, getting all their little nuts and things together.
They are indeed. They are indeed.
My dog doesn't know what to do with herself. She sees them running. I want it. But anyway, so are there any additional remarks you need to talk about before we probably have to?
No, just like I said, fortunately, it's not a laundry list of foods. It's not like the FODMAP diet, which we've spoken about, where there are dozens and dozens of foods that you need to eliminate. It's a rather concise list. You can certainly find what they are online, but we've pretty much covered it right now. You're going to hear some crazy things like blueberry. There are many, many fruits and vegetables that have solanine in it, but it's trace amounts that aren't going to flare anything. So, don't make yourself, if you go down that rabbit hole on, Dr. Google, you will find probably a much bigger list. This is pretty much the highest concentration of that solanine and those compounds, those alkaloids. If you've got, obviously I can't do specifics, but if you've got a question, a general question, or a substitution type of question, you can always contact me. You can always reach out to me. I'm happy to answer questions as long as they're not specifically or diagnosis related.
Just stay away from the Carolina ghost peppers.
Yep.
At all costs, and whatever they use to make super hot Nashville chicken. Those are the other things you got to keep away from, because wow, they can knock you for a loop. My cousin is a ER doctor in Nashville, in Vanderbilt, and he says, you don't know how many people I've treated eating hot, like they think they can do like the super reaper, hot chicken, and they wind up in the ER. So when I say that, I mean it. You got to be careful.
For damage to the membrane, or like because it raises their blood pressure, like
everything. The esophagus. I mean, it goes into their whole. They just become so hot. I mean, it's not. Yeah, don't do that.
Don't
but
do that.
don't do that. Don't do that. If you can avoid it anyway, don't drink the bottle of hot sauce.
And
So,
they
but-
used to have a TV show like that, a guy that would come in and.
oh, they still have that,
Oh, I haven't seen it, and he eats all the hot foods, and you see his eyes are bulging out, and he's sweating,
yes,
hair is falling out, and
right. They have celebrities go on and they give you levels of hot sauce
how hot
and to
can you
see
get?
and to see how far you can get. And if you look at, you know, the various celebrities trying to do this, and they can't,
Oh my gosh,
they
no
can't
way.
contain them. Yeah,
Anyway,
we have
my
to find the
children-
name of that.
Anyway, my
So,
children, I hate to tell you, our time has run out.
our time has run out. Okay.
It's time to
All
go.
right.
I feel like it's time to go now.
It's
Who's saying that song on the TV? Old show.
I don't know. I know the stuff, but sometimes if it goes too far back, nope.
Yeah.
Not sure about that one, but yeah. So this was a very interesting episode, and the nightshades. I didn't even know the name of that category, so I learned something every time.
There
So
you
that's,
go. I'm
that-
glad, Max.
That's great.
I
So
never knew nightshades. Okay, lead us out, Max.
all right. So thanks for joining us for Courtney on Health. To get more info, follow Courtney on her Facebook page, which is Courtney on Health, on Instagram at CLG Wellness, on TikTok. Visit her website, CourtneyGravenese.com. She has the podcast as well. For more shows, go to malcolmpresents.com and the manyshadesofgreen.com. This has been Courtney on Health, smart, sound nutrition, strong, safe fitness, and we'll catch you again next time.
See you next
Thanks,
time. Have a
guys.
great week.
See you next
Have a
week.
good one. Bye.